Okay, good morning. Welcome to Manahiakia Beekeeping. My name is Joss, and we're going to talk about something a little bit different today. So when you look at videos on YouTube, most of the videos that you'll see about beekeeping are talking about honey production, how to maximize your honey production, and steps that certain beekeepers take in their journey to produce honey. Most beekeepers beekeep to produce honey. Some beekeepers are queen breeders, and that's what they're interested in. Some beekeepers are interested in running the pollination circuit, and so here in Central Otago, they'd be running their bees into the various fruit growing orchards that we have here in spring, and so they want bees that build up really quickly so they can have them in to do a good job on pollination. Other beekeepers are queen breeders, and that's what they're focused on. They're producing and breeding good quality queens for sale. But there is another wee niche of beekeeping, and that is wax production. And I am not a honey producer, I am a wax producer. And I'm interested in producing high grade, good quality beeswax for sale. Now, the reason this niche has developed is that a few years ago, somebody figured out that if you used a piece of equipment that was designed for extracting heather honey, which has a lot of the same extracting properties as Manuka honey does, it's very thick in the cells, very difficult to get out of the cells. If you uncap a frame of heather or Manuka honey and put it straight in an extractor, you're hardly going to get anywhere. And in fact, in New Zealand, in Manuka areas, that's why beekeepers used to dread getting Manuka honey in their supers, because you couldn't get it out without crushing the combs. That was the only way to extract it when I was an apprentice. But then somebody invented a piece of equipment for heather honey production, which basically pricks the cells, liquefies the honey. The honey frame goes straight into the extractor, and it can be extracted. And they realized that they could use this for Manuka honey, and boom, all of a sudden Manuka honey is like when you mention New Zealand honeys, most people don't think of Pohutukawa honey, or they don't think of thyme honey, or they don't think of Viper's blue gloss honey, or they don't think of Akamahi honey or clover. They think of Manuka honey, and that's our primary export honey is now Manuka because of this. But one of the side effects of using this piece of equipment is that the uncapping stage of preparing a frame is no longer required. And so this little device goes in, it pricks the cells and creates these very fine cappings that then go through the extractor with the honey. They get filtered out, and so the beekeepers, big commercial beekeepers, are no longer having to deal with large quantities of cappings wax, so that it's taken an entire step out of their operation that they don't want to deal with. But it's also created a shortage of beeswax in New Zealand, because a lot of guys are now switching to this piece of equipment. So these are guys that are in areas where Manuka is not present, and they want to streamline their operation for honey production. They're not interested in dealing with the beeswax. So it's created a new niche in New Zealand beekeeping. And there are enough beekeepers in Central Otago doing a fantastic job selling thyme honey. So this is thyme honey here in the center, and this is from my hives, so out of one of my thyme stands. So I'm not interested in competing with the beekeepers in Central Otago who are doing a fantastic job doing that anyway. So I've taken to the niche of being a wax producer, and producing beeswax is my primary product. So I want good, high quality beeswax that I can then sell to New Zealand Beeswax and other companies. And my honey, therefore, gets fed back to my bees. Now, because I do that, I, unlike other beekeepers, have to take extra steps. So when Jeff from Central Kentucky Bees, hi Jeff, wants to extract his honey, he goes out to his yards, he pulls his honey supers off, he uncaps his honey supers, he extracts his honey, and he puts his supers back on, and then he processes his honey and his wax. When I want to extract honey, because I'm a wax producer, not a honey producer, I have to take several more steps so that I know where that honey came from, so that I can feed that honey back to the colony that it came from. So this is a lot more work in order to produce this beeswax. So yesterday I made a video about making sugar syrup and adding honey to it. And the reason that I can do that is that all of my honey that I take off, I label. So this feed was for a hobbyist who I help, and this is some of his honey here on the left. So I'll just lift that up and show you. So that there. So on this jar I've got the extracting date. So I extracted this on the 11th of January. And this is Eugene, is the name of the hobbyist. And he's got a colony out at Conroy's, so I didn't need to put the hive number on. So I know that this came from his bees out at Conroy's. So if Eugene is having trouble with his bees, which he currently is, then I can take that jar of honey, because I know that jar of honey came from Eugene's hive out at Conroy's. Now I can add that to the sugar syrup that I'm making for him, and he can feed it back to his bees without being concerned about cross-contamination. So my own honey, so this is from my own colonies. So you can see there, that jar's quite heavy, so I'm not going to lift it one-handed. So you can see there that I put there, so this is cappings honey, no, it's cappings processing. And then you can see some numbers down. Well, you can't really see the numbers. I can see the numbers. It's very difficult to, I'll try and get you a bit closer. Okay, so this is from apiary 6, and this is from hive 1. Okay, so I know, so that's on my own notation, so I know exactly where this honey came from. This honey on the right, it's a very rare honey. I've only had this year. So this is sycamore, English sycamore honey. This is for my own private little honey collection, because this was such a rare honey that I decided to actually decant off a jar for myself. So I've got some wing notes on there from what hive, what apiary it came out of. But this stays on my honey jar, because you don't often see this honey. It's a very, very rare honey in New Zealand or in Central Otago. So so there we go. So that is how I'm able to feed honey back to honeybee colonies. Because of the way that I process wax and honey, I have to have very thorough notes on where my honeys are coming from. Now, where I'm not able to identify the hive and the apiary that the honey has come from, That honey gets set aside. I do not feed that back to bees. That is honey that I will give away. So I give honey away to friends and to neighbours. And so I will put that into jars and I will give that honey away. I won't feed that back to my bees. So every so often I get asked to extract honey for somebody, and so I can't identify where that's come from. And if I'm doing a small batch of extracting, like up to 4 or 5 boxes, which most hobbyist beekeepers around here have, they only have 4 or 5 supers worth of honey. I take the cappings and the cappings honey as payment for doing the extracting. So no money changes hands. The beekeeper gets, the hobbyist beekeeper gets his honey, and I take any honey that's in the cappings, and then I will filter that honey off. I'll process the cappings because I'm a wax producer, and that honey will get jarred, and then I will give that honey away to friends and neighbours. So there we go. So I hope that kind of explains that. In hindsight, it was fairly obvious that I probably should have explained that during the video. I didn't, and it wasn't until Cheryl actually pointed it out in a comment that I thought, oh, that was actually quite stupid. I probably should have actually talked a bit about that. So there we go. So hopefully that's cleared up any misunderstandings. So I've taken that video down, and I'm going to make another video possibly today about doing a small batch, because I need to do another small batch, but I won't be adding honey to this one. This is for another hobbyist who just needs a bit of sugar syrup. I'm looking after his 4 hives at the moment, so while he's away on the North Island, and so I'm just going to be feeding straight syrup to his bees. So there we go. So that is how I can feed honey to hobbyist bee colonies, because I know exactly what hive that honey has come out of. I do not recommend that you go and buy a jar or get a jar of honey off the supermarket shelves and feed it to your honeybees, because it's very, very, very dangerous. If that honey has any viruses or any diseases like American foul brood especially, you have just given your honeybees American foul brood, and that means you'll have to completely destroy the hive in New Zealand anyway. So there we go. So I hope that clears that up a wee bit, and a little bit of an explanation about what I do as a beekeeper and what I'm focusing on. Sorry. For goodness sake, you just have to cough in the video, wouldn't you? Can't edit this out either, because I'm on the phone at home, and it's a very manky, cold, horrible day today. Autumn has definitely arrived. Okay, so we'll close it out there, and hopefully you enjoyed that. If you've got any questions about anything on the video here, post them in the comments. Do the all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, we'll see you later. Bye.